Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Bridge Art Gallery, and we are so excited to host the first of the series of artist conversations connected with the 10th anniversary of Expressive Creative Soul. The Bridge Art Gallery has two gallery locations, one in Jersey City and one in Wilmington, Delaware. And we started in 2016, and I can't believe here we are 10 years later. And we all started, this whole journey started with Expressive Creative Soul. It's an annual exhibition that we curate to highlight new, emerging, and established artists of the diaspora. And so we're super excited to kick off this conversation series with the one and only Theda Sandiford. Let's welcome Theda Sandiford, an interdisciplinary artist. Hello, my friends.
Hi, Cheryl. Thank you so much for having me here. I can't believe it's been 10 years.
I know, and you've been a part of the journey the entire way. When Chris and I were looking through like the archives of past shows that we do have on our website. I was like, oh, yep, there's Theda. And, your spirit really kind of brightened, what was, starting to be a very dim time. You remember we were supposed to do a show March 2020. But we made it happen. We did a quick pivot to do virtual, and we did our first artist conversation.
Yeah, we did do that. We brought out the pandemic. And honestly, when you think of it, it became a pandemic perk, because I remember discovering this app with you guys that we're using now on here. And the fact that we're on it now, 6 years later, these are all skills that were like muscles that we didn't have, that now they're like super strong muscles.
Absolutely. And so we got to flex. And of course, what better way to flex than with Wonder Woman selfie? And so first, before we get into your art, I want you to tell us a little bit about your practice as a interdisciplinary artist.
Well, I'm a kind of a sort of anthropologist, archivist, and scavenger. That's the type of artist I am, because I walk around and see things that other people throw away and want to give them new lives. It's almost as if it's, a bottle cap is sitting on the ground and it's like, pick me up. So for my entire life, I have been collecting random things. They're my treasures. So it might be a button or a shell or a broken piece of jewelry. Those are the things that end up in my work. And some of them have personal meaning to me, things that I've held on to for, how many years that may be, my entire life. But then there are all the things that other people collect and bring to me, and they have personal meaning for those people. And there's also a lot of material memory in objects people throw away, because they had one purpose and now I'm using a new purpose. So I guess you could say I'm an artist. That's a part of the remix culture, that is taking things and making them into something new.
Yeah, and giving them a new narrative. A lot of your work is, deeply personal, because you're infusing, like most artists, infusing a lot of, your, emotions and feelings and thoughts about things. But you take it a step further, because oftentimes you're incorporating very personal items into your artwork. How do you balance the personal narrative with the universal themes in your artwork?
I kind of feel like my work is focused on my humanity, which humanity is universal, no matter who we're talking about. But when you take your care and actually sew into the work or somebody else's, particularly the use of discarded clothing items, textiles, anything that's held close to your body has the a DNA imprint on it. It has, yeah, maybe I watched too many of these CSI sort of forensic type shows, but they can find out everything about you just based on like, what did you eat and all that. And I just find that fascinating in my selections of materiality to actually pass that along. We all have DNA, we all bleed, we
Mhm.
all have hair, or at least most of us. And so we all have thoughts and feelings, and we also have impact from our environment. And so I think all of those are universal themes. And I like to play with that in my work, especially since I'm like hitting meetings, or there might be things that you got to look up close. From a distance, you see one thing, and then when you get up close, you see a lot more detail. And I feel like, as human beings, we live our lives that way too.
Absolutely. And a lot of it is based upon perspective. And I think that's what I like, particularly about your artwork, because you have like those different layers of experience that, the piece that we're going to look at is currently in the gallery and it's on a wall as soon as you come in. And immediately everyone is just like it literally takes their breath away. But then when they get a little closer, then they notice little things, which makes them lean in even closer to notice like all the levels and layers of detail. And so let's not delay our viewing audience with the magnificentness of this piece. And here she is.
I
So
just I
tell us.
just love her so much, because when you get up close, and please, I encourage everyone to go to Wilmington and see this piece, because in her hair, there's lots of conversation that is going on. And you can sort of see, but when you get up close, you really can see that I'm hiding hidden messages. There's humor in there. There's things that you might recognize, like even the use of the bottle caps, that if you have children, if they use a little squeezy, like grape food items, you will see those things in there. So I find that using materials that people find very familiar and in a surprising way gets them to kind of say, wait a second, what is that?
Exactly. So, what was the initial spark or inspiration behind creating? Well, first of all, let's talk about the sheer size of this. It's a large tapestry that is 120 inches by 96, which is massive. So, what was the initial spark behind you actually creating this particular piece of work in this and in tapestry form?
Well, I got to say, this is transitional work for me, because prior to this tapestry, I was doing a lot of 2D work on canvas, or this original work was on a canvas board. And I had an invitation to do a show. And the space was, you could put one piece, do an installation in a space that was 10 by 12. And it was in a sort of a vestibule where people would be walking down the stairs and would see the piece. And they were like, make use of the space, go big, go large. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do something I'm incredibly uncomfortable with. I'm going to make the biggest piece I've ever made. And I'm going to embroider this piece with bottle caps and mirrors and ribbon and all kinds of flowers, all kinds of things. And I had 3 months to do it. And I didn't know how I was actually going to execute it. I think some of the best work I've done comes from not knowing and being forced out of my comfort zone. And so what I ended up doing is, over a 2-month period, opening my studio and inviting people off the street. I posted on Facebook, I sent it out to email. I Instagrammed about it. I put it in little fiber communities, and I invited people coming off the street to help me sew buttons and do the embroidery on the piece. So over the course of that 2-month period, I had over 25 people show up to those open studio events. And what was so
Wow.
wonderful about it was in Jersey City, there's a large East Asian population. And I don't know if you've ever been to Newark Avenue up near Journal Square, but there's a number of stores where you can get the embroidered Indian wedding dresses, which are incredible. And so when there were 2 women that came down, they were like, let's have something fun to do. And they came down and they taught me those embroidery techniques where they encapsulate the mirrors onto embroidery. And so there's a number of those. There's a whole bunch of mirrors that are embroidered onto that, which was a technique I learned just by those women coming down saying they wanted to hang out and do something a little different.
Pre-pandemic, I loved your studio in Jersey City for that reason, because it was very communal. Not only did you open your doors, but actively inviting people in and to be a part of the process. And, I remember coming to, a couple of your rope sessions, weaving sessions, and the conversations were just going in all kinds of different directions. And I remember people initially being a little apprehensive, like, oh, I'm not an artist. And you were just like, no, but you're a part of this creative process.
I love people who say they can't do, and then they realize they can do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're going to sit down at my table, you're going to realize you have skills you didn't know. And it's so funny because I've had a lot of different type of people. I mean, like the current mayor of Jersey City, James Solomon, came to one of those weaving sessions, and he was one of those, I'm not sure I know what to do. And I'm like, yeah, you do. Let me show you a couple things. And he's like, oh, so this is like tying knots. I was like, yeah, I'm sure you were a Boy Scout, so you can do this. So I love that. I've had like little kids come through and realize that they're like, I like this. And then hear from their moms saying they're now knitting sweaters because they were excited they learned 1 or 2 skills that they can move forward. One of the most exciting things for me, particularly from those rope works, is each time I touch the material, like once it's done, as my hands move over it, I can almost remember the conversation. I can tell whether I did that stitch or somebody else did it. And there's like the memory of the conversation is in there, of the individual. So for me, it's like a visual archive of all the people I've been connected to in my life. It's wonderful to have that. And that was just a surprise. I wasn't expecting that when I started working in community. Uh-oh, where'd you go, Michelle?
No, I'm here. I just wanted to make sure that everyone could, see you, because I think, when you're talking about your work and the passion of your work, it's so important. And, the fact that, you remember that the current mayor, the newly elected mayor of Jersey City, was a part of your weaving circle, that's, something within itself. And, people definitely feel a connection to your work once they see the final product and they remember, oh, I helped do this piece, right here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if the gallery allows me to, I like to put the names of the individuals who participated as part of the materials, because they bring their selves to the work. And to me, that is material memory.
So speaking of materials, how do you source the materials that are actually a part of your work?
Wow. Well, materials speak to me. So I have multiple projects that I'm working on at the same time, and they will literally, I pick it up and I'll be like, oh, intuitively know what I need. Or I'll put out a call. I might do a post where I say, hey, I'm looking for bottle caps. And then all sorts of bottle caps will come. I'm currently looking for wine corks. So every day I get, when I go to the post office, there's wine corks. There's even people still dropping off uh, materials that they think would be interesting for me at old places where I live. So I'm friends with like the doorman still to this day, where they're like, "Hey, we got some stuff here for you," and I'm like, "I'll be in town next month. I'll come pick it up." So a lot of times people who know me or see my work will see something at an estate sale, or they're cleaning out their house and they'll be like, "Oh, Theda could use this." And they just know. And so sometimes I'm like, I have no idea how I'm going to use it. So I have lots of sort of clear plastic bins with labels on it that I put all those materials in. And then when I'm working on work, I'll move around my studio, particularly in the storage area, and I'll open those bins and go through it. The process of cleaning materials for me and organizing my space allows me to reconnect with things that may have been put away and are silently waiting to be rediscovered. So I find that just letting the materials speak to me and tell me I'm over here, come pick me up, is probably a better way for me to work than pulling everything out and at the onset. Unless it's something like for an installation where I know I need a certain number of materials to achieve the result that I'm looking for. Otherwise, I go with the flow and see what speaks to me.
So when the work is, when the material is speaking to you, and then you're, creating it, especially with this particular piece, Wonder Women, how do you want the viewer to experience the work, especially when it's, contains these items that, are familiar, but you've given it a new narrative?
Well, the scale of the piece is massive, right? 8 foot by 12 foot. So you could from a distance see some details, but as you get closer, you do see more and more and more and see the layered nature of it. It's big and she's beautiful and she's glorious. I want people to see themselves in it. So you'll notice that the face of the piece is a composite of a couple of different faces. I didn't use my face. I didn't use one face. I used a couple of faces, and I put them together because I don't want someone to be like, "Oh, that's this one person." I want them to be able to see themselves. So she has one eye that's flat, but then there's a three-dimensional eye. And then there's all these little layered pieces, or in this page, clips of Wonder Woman, but there's a lot of different actresses that played Wonder Woman. All of that's in there. So things from comic books, things from like maybe an old shirt that I had, T-shirts, stickers. There's a lot of different sort of narratives in there. Also, there's the little pink army men, right? So when we think about the character of Wonder Woman, that's coming out of like this sort of World War II, very sort of, she was a support staff in the military. I just wanted to make sure the feminized version of that with the pink army men was reflected in there as well.
Let's see if we can like make this a little bit
Can you
larger.
zoom in?
That I may not be able to do. I think this is the largest we can go with this particular piece. Now, would you like to share with our viewing audience where this has been seen?
Being Mary Jane.
With Gabrielle Union on BET.
Yeah, so it was in a version of this was in her home, in her apartment on that show, and they licensed it for the show. And so, I've been, if you can't fit a 10 by 12 foot, tapestry in your house, Bridge Art Gallery does have some posters that you can pick up for your home. And quite a few people have these posters in their home or in their office. That show was great for giving exposure to this particular series. And I mean, women just love her because they see themselves in her in all her glory.
Absolutely. And I know that we've sold quite a few. And, during the pandemic when everyone was virtual, there was a lot of curation to everyone's background. And several executives that we worked with specifically wanted this piece because one, just looking at the artwork brought them, an immense amount of joy. But also, just seeing themselves represented. And of course, it's a stunning piece of work within itself. So that was the easy win.
Win and win.
So, when you're can you explain a little bit more about being an interdisciplinary artist and what that means to you?
Well, many people see what I do as sort of mixing different mediums, but when I think interdisciplinary is more accurate because I am like not just making things that you can touch. I am working in sound and video. I'm also working in foodways, so ancestral recipes, and how all of that comes together in an installation environment that you can touch all your senses. So things you can see, things that you can smell, things that you can taste, things that you can touch. And so I feel that is interdisciplinary is a better way of describing an experience that is art and more. And so that's really where my focus is right now in my practice.
So how is that manifesting itself, these days with, the new body of work that you're doing?
I recently moved in the last couple of years now, but I've been going back and forth. But I'm now live and moved my main workspace of my studio to St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands. And when the hurricane season comes, or when there's rough seas or high winds, there's a lot of materials to be found. So I do beach combing. I go on hiking trips. I walk around and pick medicinal plants. I am walking areas where I'm finding wild cotton, which obviously is left over from generations ago. So I call them volunteers to still be around. And so I'm really kind of getting in touch with how our environment and ecologies have shifted due to colonialism and sort of neo-colonialism and all the evidence that's left behind from the peoples that came before us. So it's fascinating. Every day is different. A lot of it is driven by the weather. And so that is exciting to me. So I've been exploring eco-dyeing, making cordage and ropes from found materials. I'm growing indigo on the property. I'm harvesting bamboo. I'm doing all kinds of things to do the same kind of work I've always done, but using and exploring the materiality of things that are available for me here, both natural and unnatural, because things like ropes and fishing nets and pieces of plastic, wash up on a beach after a major hurricane, or after a hurricane, all the phone lines come down, all the electricity lines come down. I go and collect all those things, and I've been weaving baskets and various vessels out of them. So all of this is adding a sort of new meaning because I have new materials to work with and to remix them and transform them into new conversations. So it's the same but different, right? I went from being an urban forager to being an eco forager.
Which, is really, interesting because as you're creating new narratives with these materials that you're, finding in St. Croix, they still hold, history and stories from, their initial usage. And so, if you get a chance, go over to Theda's website. Please provide everyone with your website.
Well, thedasandiford.com. So that's easy to find me. And then are you going to show some pictures from Sky Garden?
Yes, well, I was going to do the transition because
Okay.
now that you're fully in St. Croix and it's enhancing your practice in a very, interesting and expansive way, you're actually creating opportunities for others. So tell with the drum roll, tell us what you've done, Theda.
Well, I have, well, you know what? This place is so special. I would be selfish to keep it to myself. We have really looked at taking the space. This is on the screen is my new studio. It was a year to build it. It is a dream come true. You have those moments when you got to think. I started working on my dining room table. Well, actually, I started working on a coffee table, then a dining room table, then I got a studio space, and I now building a studio that is absolutely what I need it to be. So in that outdoor area, that's where I do my dyeing, and I'm cleaning all the materials that I'm picking up off the beach.
Mhm.
And then I have an area where I can do work on my paint work, messy work, things that could drip on the ground, and then a very clean area where I do my sewing, my weaving, and then where I'm sitting right now is in my little like officey type area where I'm storing stuff. So this space is wonderful, and there's enough room in here for multiple artists to come and join me. So I've been having casually, slowly, some artists come down. I had around 8 last year. Fiber artists, I had a fiber shed person, a sheep farmer come down. I've had chefs come in, writers, musicians, a glass artist, a ceramicist, different types of artists come down with very different disciplines that are interested in kind of having connecting to the land in a way, or exploring diasporic narratives, or even just being in a beautiful place and not having anything to do except think about their art. So we've been going hiking and foraging and working on land art projects. It's been wonderful. So yeah, I'm in the process now of working on building out a website to have people come down and book stays for a week, 2 weeks, a month, work on projects, work with me in the studio, work on their own projects. And the artist community down here in St. Croix is super excited about it too, because we've been hosting these wonderful dinners out here underneath this lanai area that you see on the screen. There's a beautiful outdoor kitchen there, and we've been hosting dinners with visiting artists and artists from down here. And it's just been a wonderful exchange of ideas and people collaborating. And it's, I've had 2 or 3 artists have come back now 2 times and are already planning the next time they want to come back, because the collaboration opportunities with artists down here, or farmers down here, or people who are chefs down here. I mean, again, interdisciplinary means anything that you can think of as art. There's someone down here who's doing something similar, and you could be paired up with that person and create something pretty awesome.
And I love that because it is an artist residency, because sometimes artists need to get out of their normal routines, their normal environments, in order to be able to, expand their creative mind, expand that creative muscle. So you've actually created a space for artists to be able to do just that.
It's a sanctuary. It really is. One of the things I really love about this space, and I'm still learning about this space, is how much of the foliage and how much of the plants are usable in ways that, like, we think that they're weeds. So actually, this Friday, I'm doing a local tour for the hiking associations on a local farm, where we're walking the grounds of the farm and looking at all the weeds, and just exposing all their medicinal and edible properties, because pretty much you can eat most things. Some things you should eat in moderation. Some things you need to prepare a certain way. But learning all of that since I've been down here has just been an exciting way to kind of look at. I mean, you go there, you just see a bunch of trees, but there's guava berry bushes in there, right? You can make some guava berry rum, and you can eat some of these seeds. It's just amazing. Plus, I'm like, oh, I can make beads out of this, or I could take this and make cordage out of that. I absolutely love being someplace where every day I see something new, and something that you might just overlook. You just think, oh, look at that bush. No, it's more than just the bush.
Well, I have to tell you, I did not know that you had guava berries that grew there. Guava berry colada is my favorite Caribbean drink.
Oh
So,
my goodness. We have hundreds of trees here, because we have 5 acres.
mhm,
And we're growing cacao. We have mangoes, we have avocado. I mean, we have ganip. Um, I just learned that you can eat flamboyant flowers. We have
mm,
soursop.
mhm,
We have cocoa plum. What I mean, and we're still planting. Oh, hibiscus. I've been making a hibiscus tea. We got tons of lemongrass. We have a full provision garden, where we're growing most of the food. So when people come down, they'll be able to, go into the garden and pick fruits and vegetables that they can eat right off the land, like their own hands picked it,
mhm.
not some fancy, marketing thing that says organic. No, actually organic, because I live on an island, and it's expensive to get those chemicals, and I don't want to eat those chemicals anyway. So we found
Exactly.
natural ways, by interplanting different species to
Mhm.
actually have naturally take care of the pests that would occur. Now, if the deer would stop eating all my stuff, I would be very pleased.
I mean, that's all a part of the circle of life.
Right? I'm like, I need to Katniss Everdeen one of those.
So, outside of the ability for that farm to table kind of experience, what would you say is a pivotal thing for artists, for the artist's working environment, you know, at Sky Garden that they wouldn't be able to do in their own studio?
Well, Derek, it depends on where you live. There's a beautiful hiking right outside up the Blue Mountain where there's petroglyphs, like right there, right? So hiking, laying by the pool, a 5-minute drive to the beach, uh, you know, being able to eat the food that you picked, or knowing, or coming with me when I go to the farmer's market, knowing the names of every single person that touched your food before it got on your plate. That's huge. Or sometimes it's just, the birds singing in the wind in the trees, and the wind chimes going. Just the natural environment here. It's quiet, it's peaceful. You can't help but exhale. You can come here and be very productive, or you can come here and just lay by the pool and sketch and look at the sky. And oh, wow, we have no light pollution. So, I mean, when I saw the Milky Way, probably for the first time, because I'm coming from, New York, Jersey City, inner city, I, I was like, what's that? And I used the app, and I was like, that's the Milky Way. I mean, like, it was a cloud of stars. I just feel like it's, or the bats that are flying around at night. This is just very different from any other sort of environment that most people are accustomed to, unless you live like, in a pretty remote area, or, live in a rainforest. We're literally in a rainforest with orchids in bloom outside the trees. Pretty much everywhere you go, there's something in bloom all the time, and the weather is incredible. I can't do the snow like you guys have been having this past year. That's crazy to me. But so every day, maybe the coldest it gets is 70 degrees, and In the summertime, maybe it gets hot. It gets into the 90s, but that's hot everywhere, right? So the weather is beautiful. It can be a little scary during hurricane season, but we don't have residents come down during that time, because if you're not built for that, you shouldn't be in an environment where that can occur. Besides, for me, that's prime time for me to forage for all my materials so that I have everything I need for the rest of the year to just work in the studio. Yeah.
So it sounds like, the ability to come down to Sky Garden in St. Croix for a residency is not only to be able to, disconnect, but also to reconnect with nature, with yourself, work in community with, other artists like yourself, including local artists, and to really have the time and the space and the tranquility to just create.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful gift. Please take yourself up on it, because you're worth it. If you do vacations, this is a vacation where you might actually pour something into yourself, right?
So if people were interested in participating with your artist residency, what is the best way for them to contact you?
Well, for right now, the best way would be through my website or on Instagram. And the Sky Garden Gallery website is in construction right now, where you'll be able to log in and actually just book your stay directly through that. Ultimately, and once that page is built, I will be reaching out to a number of the arts organizations that are in the sort of Mid-Atlantic region and seeing if they'd be willing to fund artists to come down and prepare grants for artists within their communities that they want to send down here to kind of have the experience at Sky Garden. So before the end of the year, I'm hopeful that will happen. But yeah, if you want to come down, you can send me a direct message and we can work it out.
Yes, if you can picture yourself sitting by this pool, being served, culinary delights, farm to table in St. Croix at the Sky Garden. If you can see yourself here, then contact Theda through her website, thedasandiford.com. And your Instagram, Theda?
Miss Theda, MISSTHEDA. I'm on there. Give me a buzz.
Absolutely. So to kind of close out, Theda, thank you so much for, your time and generosity. Thank you for letting us hold on to your beautiful art baby. She is one of my favorites. But as a final question that I want to pose to you is that, your work reminds us of the power of collective creativity and shared experiences. And really, that's also what you're doing with the residency. As you continue, Theda, to evolve as an artist, what ideas or themes are you most excited to explore in 2026?
Wow. There is so much that I'm excited about. I think I mentioned that I'm working on multiple things at the same time. And I'm working on a couple of series, because why not make it harder for myself to try to do it all? But I'm working on doing research on the property that I have here, because I've learned that what was from the Negro village was where the plantation was down here, was on the other side of the street and further up the hill. And where the enslaved lived was on this side of the street, because this was where the floodplain is. And there's a series of streams that flow through the property when it has high rains. So I have been uncovering some ruins as we've been kind of beating back the bush and seeing what plants and trees, fruit-bearing plants and trees that we have. So I'm researching all of that. That's one project. I'm building a provision garden that has, I've been doing the research as to what foods and supplies were brought with the enslaved when they were brought on the ships here, and noticing a lot of nuances and similarities, how it impacts the foodways. And of course, a lot of similarities, given where the origins came from, where the boats came from. But looking at how each of the different colonial powers and their thoughts around food and traditions around food had influence. At St. Croix, there were 7 different flags flown here. So the food is very unique and has all these influences in there. So I'm exploring that and growing the things on the property, and again, discovering the medicinal. And of course, I'm documenting all of this because, again, as interdisciplinary, and I'm like, oh, it's food, it's landscaping. It's more than that. It's all about world building and taking everything from these worlds and creating now physical artworks and weavings from these materials, from waste or from actual plants I'm growing for the purpose of using, like say indigo. So the gardening aspect is influencing what I'm physically making in the studio. And I'm also looking at the materials that get washed up on the beach, thinking about how if DNA of the ancestors or people who were thrown overboard in route here during the Atlantic slave trade, what if their DNA merged with that of underwater plant life or fish or even plankton, to that matter? What would that look like? So they would be transformed. So maybe they didn't have proper burials, but then they were transformed. So then they become something new. So I'm playing with this concept and looking at the materials and see how they fit within this. So I don't know where it's going to go. I'm just showing up each day and letting the materials guide me where I should go next.
Well, we are super excited to see what emerges, and I hope you share it with the Bridge Art Gallery so we can show it on
yes,
site.
I will.
Thank you so much, Theda, for again being
having
so
me.
generous with your time to chat with us about your participation with the 10-year edition of Expressive Creative Soul. And just to remind our audience, you can see Wonder Woman selfie on display until April 19th at the Bridge Art Gallery and at our Wilmington, Delaware location. And if you would like to obtain additional information and see her full body of work, you can go to Theda Sandiford, spelled just like her name on the screen, .com, to view her artwork. If you're interested in visiting as an artist or as just a global explorer to the Sky Garden in St. Croix, who wouldn't want to go to St. Croix? And then while you're down there, make me a batch of guava berry rum while you're down there.
I have some, actually. I have some put up because it takes several months I have some and put up. So, I don't have to tell you. You just have to get down here.
We have lots of comments from your favorite Max sketches.
He's like, yeah, don't worry. I got some for you too. I got some cocoa plum for you.
Again, thank you so much, Theda, for your time. And we look forward to seeing you again very soon. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we'll see you at the Bridge Art Gallery.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.